Hi students. So we are discussing about some of the terminologies in stereochemistry, that is racemization, retention, inversion of configuration, chirality, asymmetric, symmetric, etc. So now we will see how an SN1 and an SN2 mechanism undergoes in an optically active alkyl halides or haloalkanes. So we are discussing haloalkanes, the various reactions, and we have seen the SN1 and SN2 mechanism in alkyl halides, but today we are going to deal with how an SN1 mechanism or an SN2 mechanism is applicable in an optically active alkyl halides. Till now we have not considered about the optically active alkyl halides. We simply give a generalization of how an alkyl halide undergoes an SN1 and an SN2 reaction. So today we will see how an optically active alkyl halide will undergo SN1 or SN2 mechanism. So in generally again we can say that an optically active alkyl halide, this optically active alkyl halide means what? Optically active alkyl halide means the carbon atom, and there must be an asymmetric carbon atom in which what is it? All the four groups attached to that carbon atom are different, and also its mirror image is non-superimposable to the other. That we have studied in detail. Okay. So that is optically active alkyl halide. So if you want to give an example, I can say this is the nucleophile which we want to, for example, alkyl halide, right? This is bromine. Now 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 valencies of carbon atom. Then one is alkyl halide, the halogen. Second is, for example, we have hydrogen. Third is we have CH3. And fourth is we have C2H5. So see, all the groups are different. That is C2H5, CH3, hydrogen, bromine. So this carbon atom is an asymmetric carbon atom. Correct? Now, what happens in an SN1 mechanism and an SN2 mechanism? See, if an alkyl halide which is optically active, underline, optically active alkyl halide, if it undergoes an SN2 mechanism, it will result in inversion of configuration. The same what we have studied in a generalized thing. That is, an SN2 mechanism always happens with an inversion of configuration. The same thing is happening in this optically active alkyl halide also. That is, it means that even if it is a chiral or an achiral molecule, in the case of an SN2 mechanism, it always accompanies by an inversion of configuration. What do you mean by inversion of configuration? I have told you. That means if the nucleophile will come in the opposite direction and the bond will form exactly in the opposite side of this the halogen atom, thereby kicking out the halogen atom as a halide ion and putting up a new bond between the carbon and the whatever be the nucleophile. For example, if it is OH minus, the COH bond. Isn't it? So I can say SN2 always follows an inversion of configuration. So that is a funda. That means SN2 mechanism for an optically active halide follows an inversion of configuration, whereas an SN1 mechanism follows racemization. What is it? An SN1 mechanism follows racemization. We have seen all the two terms, that is what is inversion and what is racemization. Okay, now we will see one by one how this happens. Just not a mechanism, but just we will see. We know the steps, isn't it? So we will first take the SN2 mechanism, that is the inversion of configuration. Okay, how the inversion of configuration takes place in an SN2 mechanism. Okay, we know in an SN2 mechanism, we know the alkyl halide is C then here it is the bromine, here it is H, here it is CH3, and here it is C2H5. See, this is, and if I want to have a mechanism, I will draw like the way which we explained there. That means C, here it is Br, then here it is hydrogen, here it is CH3, that is having a wedge upwards, and there is a wedge downwards, that is it is C2H5. See, so this carbon atom is an optically active carbon atom. Correct. It is an asymmetric carbon atom which is mirror image, which mirror image will be non-superimposable to other, isn't it? So the mirror images are enantiomers. So this carbon atom is mirror. So what will happen? You know what is SN2 mechanism? It is a one-step process, isn't it? It's a one-step process. No intermediate is formed in between. Only a transition state is formed in which SN2 means bimolecular. Both the kinetics deals with the concentration of both the reactants. That is the alkyl halide, optically active alkyl halide, and the nucleophile. So where the nucleophile comes? The nucleophile will come like this. If it is an OH minus nucleophile, it will come like this, isn't it? And what happens? There will be a transition state. That means the OH bond, and here will be the Br bond, isn't it? So here it is CH3, here it will be H, here it will be C2H5. See? Here this is the transition state, not intermediate. Intermediate, and you know what's the difference between intermediate and transition state, isn't it? Intermediate and transition state means intermediate you can isolate it. You can isolate the intermediate, whereas the transition state you cannot isolate. Okay, that it will go immediately it will go off to the product. So what will happen here? Here again what will happen? The OH will be here, and then and see, there is no configurational change, just an inversion of configuration. That is CH2 minus, and here is CH3. See, this is inversion of configuration. That means here it is on the right hand side, the Br, the halide ion is on the right hand side, but on the resultant product it is on the left hand side, like an umbrella. In the wind, it will come to the position like it will come off the board. So in that case, it is called as the inversion of configuration. So it is same as what we have studied in the later case. In the general case. So it is easy for you. So this is always accumulate. Whether it is an optically active compound, we are now studying about an optically active alkyl halide. So in that case also, when a nucleophile attacks, if SN2 mechanism happens, what will happen? Inversion of configuration happens. And what is the reactivity? Primary greater than secondary greater than tertiary. Because due to the steric effect, the reason, what is the reason? The steric effect, due to the steric effect, the nucleophile cannot come when it is a tertiary alkyl halide. Clear? Okay. Now we will pass on to SN1 mechanism. Now what is about the SN1 mechanism? What is SN1 mechanism? It's a two-step process, isn't it? It's a two-step process. Then it depends the rate. It is a first order kinetics, isn't it? It's a first order kinetics. Why? Because it depends only on the tertiary alkyl halide. And what is the third step? The very important slow step or the rate determining step is the formation of a carbocation, isn't it? So now we will see how it happens. Now I told you SN1 reaction. For SN1 reaction there is an inversion of, SN2 reaction there is an inversion of configuration, isn't it? SN2 inversion of configuration. Okay. Now we will see what happens when an SN1 reaction happens. The same alkyl halide we will use it. Now, in the case of an alkyl halide, it is Br, then here it is H, then here it is CH3, and here it is C2H5. So this is an asymmetric carbon atom which is having all the four groups different. So it is optically active. So what happens in an SN1 mechanism? The first step is the SN1 mechanism is always followed in a protic or used to carry out in a protic solvent, isn't it? Why? Because the solvents H plus will extract or remove the Br minus or the halide ion in the alkyl halide. So that is a use. Questions can be asked. Okay. So what happens? This is a slowest step. Okay, the slowest step to form what? A carbocation, isn't it? A carbocation. Now what happens then here? Here will be H, then C2H5 and CH3. See? So now the hybridization also, it will change from the shape of the, not hybridization, shape of this will change from tetrahedral to planar. Isn't it? Now here is the interesting thing. Now once the carbocation is formed, that is the slowest step or the rate determining step is over, that is the formation of carbocation, we said that in the SN1 mechanism, racemization happens. Isn't it? Now what is this racemization? Racemization means what? Equal volumes of enantiomers, isn't it? Equal volumes of enantiomers. Enantiomer means mirror images. If it is a plus thing, other is a minus thing. So rest all are same. You know, enantiomers, all the chemical properties are, the physical properties are same. The only difference is in the degree of rotation. So if one is on the dextrorotatory, the other enantiomer will be on the levorotatory. So when equal volumes are mixed together or equal enantiomers are mixed together in equal proportion, you will get, or the resultant mixture will have an optical activity 0, which means one will be nullified by the other. And you know, the degree of rotation will be also similar. If it is plus 30 degree towards the right, the other enantiomer will be minus 30 towards the left. So when you add on or when you mix with an equal proportion, the two will combine and the mixture will have a 0 optical activity. And you are used to write DL, isn't it? Or plus or minus. So SN1 mechanism will always go for racemization. Okay, that means DL or plus minus. Now we will see how this carbocation entity ends in racemization. You see, this is a planar. Just visualize it. This is a planar. This is not sp3 hybridization. If it is an sp3 hybridization, the rotation will be difficult to imagine. Where we have seen in Fischer projection method, isn't it? You have to rotate through 180 degree, then only you have to superimpose with the mirror image. I think you are remembering that. But here it's only a planar, 2 dimension, isn't it? So what happens? I will tell you. See, this is the trigonal. In the board you can say like this, but for the nucleophile to attack, it will be like this. Anything. This is for easiness I am telling you. Now what happens? This is a planar. Okay. Now see, this is the carbocation, this is the H, this is C2H5 and this is CH3. Now what will happen? There is an equal possibility of a nucleophile. Our nucleophile is, for example, OH minus, isn't it? Our nucleophile is, for example, OH minus. So the OH minus is coming. Okay, and attacking it. The OH minus is coming and attacking it. Now what happens? There is a possibility of two things. See, it can attack, one thing, it can attack from this side. See, it can attack from this side. So what happens? This is the OH minus. Because there is no steric things happening here. There is full space. So it can either come like this way and bond it with the carbon atom to form the product. That is, the OH minus is here. In the same way, equal possibility of coming at this side, see, this side, forming the OH here. See? Now what happens? See, what is our reactant Br? Br is in the right hand side. So when the configuration, when the shape changes from tetrahedral to trigonal, this Br is the same. So the OH minus group will attach to the same position as the Br minus. See, here it is a Br minus. Correct. So that happens, that product can be happen. So there is no inversion of configuration, nothing. Isn't it? Now what happens? If the nucleophile comes in the opposite direction, it can also have the same chance, 50-50 chance. If the OH minus will attack in this opposite position. Now what happens? So there is a possibility of 50-50% chance of getting this product, that is the same product on the same side where the Br minus is, the OH minus, or the OH minus will be on the the opposite side. Clear? Now, if it is on the same side, if you say it is a dextro-rotatory, having a degree of rotation say plus 40 degree, the other product possibly can happen is what? It is a minus 40 degree, isn't it? That is levorotatory. Because in a solution, it can happen. And experiment shows that what? There is an equal possibility of what? Getting a dextro as well as a levo thing, which result in what? If it is an equimolar mixture, it will result in racemization, isn't it? So that is why you say the SN1 mechanism is always follows a racemization for an optically active alkyl halide. Now how will I draw it? See, I can draw it in this way for your convenience. I have what? I have this carbocation. For example, say this is our carbocation. Listen. The OH minus can come from this OH minus, isn't it? And form what? And form the OH minus will be here and the other three carbon atoms will be there. Correct? Now if we represent this as our A, first product, see the OH minus at the same time can come and attack from the opposite side. Correct? Opposite side. So the OH minus will come in this side and the product is what? The same as here it is the right hand side, here it will be the left hand side. See? Now we can say it as B. Now if you say a 50% and 50% of A plus B mixed together, you will get a racemization in which the optical activity will be 0. So that is why we say for an optically active alkyl halides or haloalkanes, SN2 mechanism follows an inversion of configuration, whereas SN2 mechanism always follows an inversion of configuration, whereas an SN1 mechanism follows racemization. Clear? So that is the mechanism behind an optically active compound and SN1 and SN2. So hope you are clear with that. SN2 is always same. There is an inversion of configuration. It's a bimolecular. Its weight is in a second order. So it is always same. But in SN1 we studied in a general cases there is no inversion of configuration. Yes, there is no inversion of configuration, but it results in racemization. And you know what is racemization? Equimolar mixture of two enantiomers results in an enantiomer in which the optical activity is 0. Correct? So that is clear. Now, the next is, we will pass on to the second reaction. So this is all about the nucleophilic substitution, bimolecular and unimolecular. Now there are three reactions, as already I told you in that first session. There are three reactions: substitution, nucleophilic, then elimination reaction and reaction with metals. So now we will pass on to the second type of reaction, that is elimination reaction. So we will see that. It's also very simple. That means elimination reaction, you know. In the Western also we have studied about the elimination reaction in alkenes and all. Here, in elimination reaction, there is a condition to be satisfied. We are studying about haloalkanes. So I will write a simple haloalkanes, for example, CH3, CH2, Br. Correct? CH3, CH2, Br. A simple alkane, haloalkane. Or you can write CH3, CH2, Cl. Okay. Now, if an elimination happens or is to get happened, that compound must contain, listen very carefully, that compound must contain a beta hydrogen atom. What is it? This compound contains a beta hydrogen atom. Now what do you mean by a beta hydrogen atom? What is an alpha hydrogen atom? See, you have a halogen atom here and we are studying the haloalkanes, a functional group. The carbon atom which is attached to that functional group, anything, CHO, COOH, whatever it be, that is called as the alpha carbon atom. Here, this is the carbon atom because the bromine atom is attached to the carbon atom. So, the carbon atom which is directly attached to the halogen atom is called as the alpha carbon atom. Correct? Now what will be the beta? The second one is beta, the third one is gamma, delta, etc. etc. So the condition is, it must contain, or the compound must contain a beta hydrogen atom. Then only you can eliminate, or elimination reaction happens. Now if I ask you a question whether this compound undergoes elimination reaction, this haloalkanes undergo elimination reaction, will it? It is only CH3Br. Where is the beta hydrogen atom? There is no beta carbon atom. And one more thing, you cannot have a beta hydrogen atom without a beta carbon atom. Remember. Why you say a beta hydrogen atom? With respect to the carbon atom, beta carbon atom. Okay, so there is no beta hydrogen atom in the absence of a beta carbon atom. There should be a beta carbon atom, and the hydrogen atom attached to the beta carbon atom, you call it as what? Beta hydrogen atom. Okay, so in this case there is only alpha carbon atom, so there is no point in discussing that, because there is no beta carbon atom, thereby there is no beta hydrogen atom. Correct? Okay. Now what happens is, in this reaction, or haloalkanes containing a beta hydrogen atom. So there are three hydrogen atoms, beta hydrogen atoms are there. When it reacts with very important reagent, alcoholic potash. Very, very important. Remember very carefully this reagent. I will tell you why. Okay. So when this reacts with alcoholic KOH, what happens is an elimination reaction happens. That is okay. But how? See, here it is a bromine atom which is in the alpha. This bromine atom, and I will make you like this. Hydrogen atom I will make you like this. 1, 2 and 3. Okay. This is the beta hydrogen carbon atom or hydrogen atom. Now what will happen? This alpha bromine atom and the beta hydrogen atom, it will get removed. See, like minus HBr. This can be this such also, no problem, because the same environment. So the removal of a hydrogen halide. See, hydrogen halide. Hydrogen is a must. Even if this contains CH3 and there is only one hydrogen atom, that is okay. The reaction happens. Contain at least one beta hydrogen atom. So no problem. Okay. So this hydrogen will extract this bromine atom only in presence of alcoholic potash. Remember. That is why I said that reagent is very, very important. Once you are using the reagent alcoholic potash, that is alcoholic KOH, elimination happens. But the importance is, if you have an aqueous KOH, aqueous means in water, OH will get substituted. That is the difference between these two reagents. In conversions, we are having so many conversions from this chapter onwards. An examination, that's a sure shot question. 1 or 2 conversion, pakka it will come. Okay. So, if you want to add an OH group, to substitute an OH group, you will use the reagent aqueous NaOH or KOH, whereas alcoholic, that is KOH in presence of an alcohol, the OH will not, because you know KOH or NaOH is used for an OH minus nucleophile, isn't it? Correct. So, if you want an OH minus nucleophile, you add NaOH and a KOH. But if it is if it is an alcoholic KOH instead of an aqueous, you won't substitute the OH nucleophile there. Instead, it will get an elimination reaction. That means what will happen? This HBr will get eliminated. Then what is the product? The product will be an alkene. See, a double bond will be formed. That means this bond and this bond will go and it will come as, the shared pair of electrons will come as a bond here. So, from a saturated compound, you are getting an unsaturated compound. See, an alkene is formed. That is, ethene is formed. What is the product? Ethene is formed. I told you, there is a custom in organic chemistry where you write this reactant and product. But in organic, you normally do that. In organic, we will write the name of the compound here. For example, this is bromo, what is it? Ethane. And the product is ethene. Usually, we will write that in organic chemistry. So, follow that custom. So, this is called as simply beta elimination reaction. What is it? Beta elimination reaction. Why you are pronouncing the beta there? Because you have to understand that there should be a beta hydrogen atom there. Then only you will have, you can give this reaction due to alcoholic KOH. It is also called as an alpha beta elimination because from alpha carbon atom, the hydrogen atom is going the beta hydrogen. But simply in your textbook it is beta, so better you study as a beta elimination reaction. Now what is the reagent? If alcoholic KOH is used, definitely an elimination reaction happens and a double bond is formed. That is, an alkene is formed. Okay. Now, so hope you understood. So very important, alcoholic. So now I'll tell you, you have that equation there, right? So you have the name reaction going on, but still in the other page, that means on the coming page, just you write the beta elimination reaction. It's not a name reaction, but it is a very important reaction, and you color it with alcoholic KOH and write it as alcoholic KOH is elimination, whereas aqueous KOH is substitution. Just write that. That's very important. Okay. So that is the beta elimination reaction. Okay. Now one more thing I want to tell you at this point of time is, see, we have studied two types of reaction, that is nucleophilic as well as nucleophilic substitution as well as elimination reaction. Now the point is, sometimes you know a reaction takes place due to many factors, isn't it? Due to many factors. For example, if you tell primary, secondary, tertiary, we say tertiary carbon atom or tertiary halides will undergo SN1 reaction more than SN2. Or a primary alkyl halide will have SN2 reaction more than SN1. So, it mainly depends upon so many factors. So, at that time, there is a competition between this elimination reaction as well as a substitution reaction. In the case of a nucleophilic substitution reaction. See, whenever a reaction comes into mind, the reaction takes place, where is a faster route or how a reaction can be made faster to get a product, isn't it? In that way the reaction proceeds, not at all in a slower way. So, for example, if the nucleophile in an SN1 or an SN2 reaction, whatever be the reaction, the nucleophile or the attacking group is a primary alkyl group. Primary means only a CH2 group is there. It always undergoes, and the chances are more for an SN1 or an SN2 reaction happens, whether it is a substitute SN2 or an SN1. Correct. But, listen, but if the coming nucleophile, I am talking about the coming nucleophile, correct? Our alkyl halide is there, but the coming nucleophile is a bulkier group. See, if it is a bulkier group, then it is very, very difficult to get into that alkyl halide, isn't it? Then what happens, you know, bulkier group means we are not talking about C2H5 or C3H7. You are talking about C7H something or like that. So much bulkier group is our nucleophile. Then it cannot enter and make bond with that halide. So then what happens? In that case, our alkyl halide, if it has a beta hydrogen atom, definitely it will have, or if it have, then what happens? It undergo elimination reaction rather than what? The substitution reaction. That's what I told you. It always, the chemical reaction always prefers of the fastness of the reaction, or always there will be a competition of the reaction. That is, which product is getting faster, the reaction will go in that direction. So, that is what I say. If the coming, so sometimes in the examination they can ask, they can give you a tertiary nucleophile coming into a tertiary halide. So, what will be the reactant product? Definitely it will be an elimination product, isn't it? So, that is why just make sure that if a tertiary halide, no doubt, if a tertiary halide is coming as a nucleophile, the elimination reaction is preferred rather than the SN2 or an SN1 reaction. Okay. But if you ask me, if a secondary halide comes as a nucleophile, the chances is 50-50. That means depending on all other factors in the alkyl halide, it can undergo SN1 or SN2 or an elimination. So it depends upon all the rest of the factors, and then the reactant will decide which way I have to go. Okay. So just that, remember that possibility of the competition versus the substitution as well as the elimination reaction. Okay. This all happens. That is why chemistry always having exceptions. Okay. So this is about the beta elimination reaction. Okay. Now we will see the last reaction, that is the reaction with metals. Very important reaction, the reaction with metals. Okay. So the reaction with metals means metals. Now we are talking about alkyl halides and aryl halides. Okay. Now most organic chlorides or bromides or iodides, for example, I will say it as generally RX. It can be a chloride, bromide or halide. So most organic chlorides or bromides or iodides, when treated with some metals, it forms organometallic compounds, which means there must be a bond between the carbon and the metal. See? That is when haloalkanes or haloarenes react with metals, what will happen? It forms an organometallic compound, which means that what? It has a bond, direct bond between the carbon and the metal. Listen. That is called as organometallic compound. And the first organometallic compound was prepared by a scientist called as Grignard. See, again another scientist. And this only happens in dry ether medium. Very important. If I said important, you have to color it with some other colors. Very important. I will tell you why. So, in dry ethereal medium or ether medium, it forms an organometallic compound. And the first organometallic compound was prepared by Grignard with the metal magnesium. See, with this metal magnesium, that is Rx plus Mg magnesium. Rx plus Mg will give you RMgX. And this is called as Grignard reagent. What is it? Grignard reagent. This reagent you can substitute in so many reactions. You can take this reaction, this reagent can take part in so many reactions to get so many products. So this is called as Grignard's reagent. Why? Grignard prepared this reagent. And this is called as organometallic compound. And now how you will call it, this compound? This compound you will call it as alkyl, because alkyl format. Magnesium. This is magnesium halide. So what is Grignard's reagent? Grignard's reagent is nothing but alkyl magnesium halide. See, that is called as an organometallic compound. So this is how it is prepared. That is an alkyl halide. When it is treated with a metal like magnesium, it will form an alkyl magnesium halide. It can be methyl chloride plus magnesium will give you methyl magnesium chloride, isn't it? You know that. That is CH3Cl plus Mg will give you CH3MgCl. See, this is an example of a Grignard's reagent. Grignard's reagent is a general name. You can name it whatever be the compound. For example, ethyl magnesium bromide, propyl magnesium iodide, whatever it is. So, but it must be in an ether. Dry condition is a must for preparing Grignard reagent. It's a must. You underline it, must. Because in presence of water, it will affect the reaction. you won't get the reaction. Or as soon as it is getting the Grignard reagent, if magnesium or if water or moisture is there, it will transform into a hydrocarbon. Okay, that we will see. So this, hope this is clear. Okay. Now we will see the bonding of this magnesium. That is, if you have an RMgX, this is our Grignard reagent. You know, this RMg bond is covalent in character. See, covalent in character. And MgX bond is ionic in character. See, in the same compound, two types of bonds are there. That is, RMg is covalent, but the point is, this bond being covalent is highly polar in nature. What do you mean polar in nature? That means this will have a positive, delta positive, and this will have a delta negative. You know, polar covalent bond and non-polar covalent bond. Non-polar covalent bond means H2Cl2, same molecule. The electron cloud is exactly the center of the bond. Whereas in polar covalent bond, the high electron negative atom will attract the electron pair towards itself. Here what happens? The more electron negative carbon is attracting the shared pair of electrons of magnesium, getting it into a minus and plus. At the same time, this MgX is what? Definitely the X is an electron negative, so it will be minus and plus. So in Grignard's reagent, there are two types of bonds. One is the RMg bond is covalent, being a high polar covalent bond, and the MgX is purely an ionic bond. So that is about the structure of the bond in Grignard's reagent. Now, two reactions in the Grignard's reagent, only one reaction to study. One is, what happens when RMgX is treated in presence of any protic solvent or moisture or water or anything which contains an H plus ion? What will happen? Then it forms the hydrocarbon. The hydrogen atom will come here. See, it is H oil. So mechanism I will tell you. This hydrogen atom will go here and form this hydrocarbon RH, and the resulting is MgOHX. The OH will come in the Mg. See, you don't want to study the mechanism. Just I told you that. So the point is, when Grignard's reagent is treated or when Grignard's reagent is prepared, if there comes to be or accidentally if moisture is there or in presence of moisture, what will happen? The Grignard's reagent will get back into what? Not get back. It will again go into another product which is called as a hydrocarbon. For example, see, when I tell you example, it is clear, more clear. CH3MgBr, if moisture is there, that is ether is not there. Ether is not there. Not in presence of ether but in water, you will get CH4 plus MgOH beta. See, this is the product. This is the product. So, this is the only one reaction we have to study in the Grignard's reagent. First is the preparation. Other than that, what is the product when Grignard's reagent is filled with water or moisture or any product? For example, acid, CH3COH, H will get abstract. So, and the last reaction in this nucleophilic, in the reaction of haloalkanes is, already you have studied what is a Woods reaction. Anyone? Woods reaction. In the 11th standard you have studied. What is Woods reaction? Okay, I will tell you. That is haloalkanes. Okay, haloalkanes when treated with sodium, remember it, in dry ether, you will get double the number of hydrocarbon. You will get a hydrocarbon, that is the bromine will go off with sodium and you will get double the number of this halogen, this hydrocarbon you will get. I will tell you one example. For example, CH3CH2Br. This is a haloalkane. When it reacts with sodium in dry ether, you will get, what you will get? You will get CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. See? It will double it. That is, two molecules will come and associate and it forms what? It will form a butane. See? You are taking only ethane. So from 2 carbon atoms, you are getting a straight away a 4 carbon atoms. So that is why this reaction is very important in conversions. If you want to convert a 2 carbon atom to a 4 carbon atom, you can apply this Woods reaction. That is, this is very important. Sodium in dry ether plus 2 NaBr. See. So this is Woods reaction. So now just go through it. You know. So that is all today. That is, here we are ending with the nucleophilic substitution. I mean the substitution reaction for haloalkanes. Now the next session we will be seeing the substitution reaction in haloarenes, that is in the benzene ring. So what I want to do is, please practice the resonance structure of benzene or the chlorobenzene, what we have studied earlier. That is how the electron shifting goes and resonance happens. So if you are thorough with that, it will be very easy the reactions for haloarenes. Otherwise it will be made a little bit difficult. Otherwise we have to find out first from all the 11th standard, that is how resonance happens in benzene. So how the negative charges go on resonance with that. So just please go through about with the electron withdrawal group and electron donating group. There are NO2 group is an electron withdrawing group, whereas Cl- is an electron donating. So just go through all that in the 11th portion. Then that's it. So next session we will see the substitution in haloarenes. So till now, thank you.